Okay, so we're finishing off X-Men 97 with the final 3 episodes, which is, luckily for us, the Tolerance is Extinction 3-parter.
Yes, we don't have to come up with different titles. It's just Tolerance is Extinction.
And holy fuck.
Shit, dude.
This is the second series in a row after Fallout that completely stuck the landing.
I will say that I am 95% of the way there.
Okay.
There were a few moments throughout the series where things would happen, and I would be like, no, that's not the way that works. That's just not how that works. That's not a thing. We're going to allow it. It comes back to Gambit charging Wolverine's claws. I like it in concept. Let's talk about the execution of what this would mean. Okay, let's talk about the actual physical ramifications of what would happen as a result of this. Now, we could get into adamantium is indestructible. Is he just charging the adamantium and not the actual metal throughout his entire body? Is it just on his claws? Is it all of his skeleton? Because if it's all of his skeleton, then that force has to come out somewhere.
And it makes you think it can't just be his claws because they're attached to his skeleton.
This is what I'm saying.
And since it's metal, it would be traveling throughout his entire body.
Remy doesn't just charge part of the card. He charges the card.
The card itself.
And so I look at it conceptually, very high concept. Executionally, I have a few questions about this. I'm not sure how this works. The stuff with Storm going through her whole thing with Forge, and is this magic? Is this not magic? Okay, I guess we're just not going to commit on anything, and that's fine. But I am noticing Cannonball's nowhere in this show. You have Sunspot and no Cannonball.
Yeah.
You set up Cannonball at the end of the series, of the original series. They set up Cannonball. Sam Guthrie is here. They unnecessarily. They take an entire episode where they don't need to set up Sam, and he's here. So you're not going to do Cannonball?
And like you said,
Cannonball and Sunspot are like, they're BFFs.
They are literally the New Mutants version of like Wolverine and Cyclops. You gotta have the two of them.
to have both of them.
Yeah.
They are a tandem.
Yeah.
They both join the Avengers.
Yeah.
Because the other is joining. Sunspot and Cannonball are like, they are two sides of the same card, man. You can't just do Sunspot. Sam Guthrie is here. I'm just confused.
Well, that was my only complaint about this series. I mainly like the storyline, and I love how the final episode they did the anti-Marvel thing where it was 44 minutes long.
Yeah.
And one of the longest episodes was the fucking final episode.
Finally.
There was a lot of teasing of characters.
Yes.
That you don't ever really...
Which I don't hate. I have some strong feelings about it, but I don't hate it. I like having some characters come in and out of the plot. Listen, I end up having so many questions. I'm happy Cap is here. I am. I'm happy he's here. I'm happy he's in the war room with Tony. I'm thrilled about this.
Yeah.
I have so many questions.
Why are they just standing in the war room?
Well,
it's Captain America and fucking Iron Man. They're just like...
Let's start with the fact that that Captain America in this universe... I must have talked about this on the show before, but let's talk about it again. Captain America in this universe, as we see in Spider-Man the Animated Series, is trapped in a liminal space in between dimensions with the Red Skull. Okay, that is how he is keeping the Red Skull out of the universe, is that he's trapped in between time and space in this liminal space, and they're just stuck there. Now, when we get through Spider-Man's story, at one point the Beyonder teleports Cap out of that, but we're told that he's put back into the exact scenario that he was taken from. So, my question, I guess, is just, how?
Well, I think, once again, they're assuming anyone that watches this series will have just watched the original X-Men series and not the Spider-Man and all the other series.
But I'm just saying, if you're going to reference Peter, because they directly reference Peter, Flash, and Mary Jane,
they do.
And I'm happy about it, I'm not angry, but I still have questions vis-a-vis Captain America being here. It's not a problem, I'm not angry about it, but how? How is he here? I just need to have a conversation with somebody.
See, I don't mind that he's here, it's just, they don't have him do anything. Like, even the fight against Rogue was kind of anticlimactic.
He's more there for talking. He gives talking points. He doesn't actually do anything.
It's like, how do you have Captain America and Iron Man with what you've shown them in other series, and you have them just standing in the war room while the world is fucking collapsing around them? It's like, they wouldn't just be standing in the fucking war room. They would have someone else protecting the president than fucking Captain America and Iron Man.
Well, they say that Cap is #1 cop, which traditionally means he's running S.H.I.E.L.D., or whatever the S.H.I.E.L.D. equivalent is. Which is, Steve's done that. Yeah. That's not uncommon for Steve. both Steve and Tony have done that. Tony, much worse than Steve. Much worse than Steve. But I don't mind it in concept. My question then becomes, the whole world's in chaos, right? Bad things are happening everywhere. And you guys are just chilling here.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, why are you here? Also, not for nothing, and this comes up a few times. So let's. I have to set the table before I get to this point.
Yeah, why the world is in chaos, because what Magneto does.
So Magneto says, fuck it.
Yes.
He gets captured by Bastion and then released by Val Cooper, and it turns out that Bastion is Nimrod, kind of physicalized, but also not just Nimrod, like all Sentinel technology physicalized into a human form. We're not going to get into the comic book of it. I'm happy that they did it this way. I'm thrilled. I think it's great.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to get Prime Sentinels like this, or Nimrod, or any of this shit. Bastion. Didn't think we were going to get any of this shit here, and we got it all here. And he's in the right costume and everything. This is fucking dope as hell.
Awesome.
This is fucking dope as hell.
It.
So when Magneto is finally released by Val Cooper, he says, fuck all y'all. And he stops the rotation of the planet.
Yep.
And, all electricity goes out. Everything's bad. Everybody gets dumped back to the Dark Ages. And we're told over and over again that the world is going to end in 12 hours.
Yes.
Now, where they come up with 12 hours, I'm not entirely sure on. They don't tell us where 12 hours came from. They just say that we have 12 hours.
They needed a plot timeline.
But we don't, because even later...
I'm not saying we needed one.
Yeah.
They needed one. Yeah,
they needed a ticking clock.
Yeah.
But I bring this up because all electronics are nullified, including...
The Prime Sentinels.
To the point where Beast has to talk to Forge and be like, hey, Forge, why do your electronics work? And Forge is like, I thought about it, and I figured out a solution years ago to this problem. I knew it was going to be a problem at some point. I knew I needed to have my electronic implants still work, even if the electricity goes out. Thought about it, got it done. Tony doesn't have that capability. And again, in this universe, Tony freaks the fuck out when his chest piece stops working. Because that happens in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It gets damaged as part of the trip with the Beyonder, and he freaks out. He is scared. He is like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Yeah. So, Tony.
Well, when we see Tony, though, everything had been restarted by then, because the Prime Sentinels were attacking the White House.
I think we see Tony when they're still in the dark. I think we see Tony in that first war room shot.
Was he in that first?
Maybe not. I have to check now. Now I don't know.
Because I think we see him when they're under attack by the Prime Sentinels.
I know we at least see him at the end.
Yes.
So that by then his stuff would be turned back on.
I don't know if he's in that first war room. I think it's just Cap.
I'm not sure. Now I have to check.
Yeah. We gotta check.
So something that I find curious.
But see, like here, okay. So this first episode is that problem I was talking about, and it's always comes down to Morph so far. One episode, he turns into Colossus, and I'm like, Colossus! No. When the Prime Sentinels are attacking and let's just say destroying the school, turns into Juggernaut. I'm like, Juggernaut, and then he's gone. I'm like, God damn
it, it was Morph again.
Fucking Morph again. But when I saw Juggernaut, I was watching it by myself. I'm like, and then it disappeared. I was like, fuck Morph. I fucking hate you.
Well, and like, it's so interesting because I heard this argument and I think it's salient, right? Because of Morph, we're able to see a lot of characters that we never would see in this show. Ever. True. Magic, we weren't going to see Magic in this show. At least not until next season. I still have a lot of questions about that. Like, a lot of questions. Ilana was a very, very sickly girl when we last saw her. I'm not saying her mutation couldn't have activated. It absolutely could have. I just have a lot of questions. At the end of the day, I just have a lot of questions, and I want you to go through the hopscotch of my questions and answer all of them, please. And thank you, because I have a lot of them. But I do like this episode. I like the build and feel of part one, where you go to this town and you have like the whole thing with Cable and Cyclops and Jean, and they're just like doing that whole dance, and then you go to this town full of Sentinels and you're like, oh shit. And you start thinking about like how Bastion would have put that in place, and you're like, oh wow, this guy is evil. Like, damn. Like, wow. You also see Bastion taking on volunteers, which I think made the waters a little muddy for me.
That was a little weird,
because it felt like the implication to me was that he turned his town into Sentinels just kind of like by poisoning the water or something. But now he's taking volunteers and turning them into Sentinels, and you get the reporter is turned into a Sentinel, and you're just like, okay. And she says like this whole line about would they remember if they're Sentinels or not, and I'm like, so were you coerced?
Yeah, I didn't get that.
I'm confused.
I didn't get that either.
Because, like, a lot of these guys, I feel like if they get sliced and diced, I don't care because they agreed to become Sentinels. Even if they didn't know that they were becoming Sentinels, they are mutant haters who went to a giant secret organization and volunteered to be part of test subjects so that they could get rid of mutants. You get what's coming to you at that point.
And that's going off of what you're saying. I wish they would have put in a part where he said, I'm taking volunteers, but I also converted some against their will to put them in positions where I needed them.
I'm taking volunteers where I need them.
Exactly.
But make no mistake, this is
little
happening.
line would have been a much better.
They set it up so it seems like everybody's volunteers, but there's so many of them that you're like, these can't all be volunteers.
They're not all volunteers.
And then Beast keeps on talking about like how they've been unwillingly turned into Sentinels, and I'm like, I don't know. A lot of them seem pretty jazzed about the idea.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm kind of conflicted with what you're telling me here, but then we get. I got 6 reasons for you. Nah, I got 9 reasons for you. I've been waiting so long for this. Guys, I've been waiting so long for this. Oh my God, I've been waiting so long for this. And it's so good. It's so perfect. The only complaint is that it's not long enough. But oh my God, I love that scene. I love that scene really so much. Even when he teleports all of them out and you see Wolverine through the port, I'm like, oh God, it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
This is the Nightcrawler I've been waiting for. And Nightcrawler's
so fucking good.
He's so perfect because he has so many scenes where he's talking to someone and he's doing that priestly thing where someone gives him a really good point and he just kind of like spins it in a certain way.
Yep.
So it's like, don't think of it this way, think of it this way. And it's like, oh, okay, so you are a priest. you're one part psychologist and one part charlatan. Yeah. But it's fine. It's fine.
And it's the thing I appreciated most about his character is his relationship with Rogue is so fucking strong in the show.
It's so good.
And it's like they play off each other so well.
So well.
And it's not a sexual thing, and I'm glad they didn't make it into like it's just like he truly loves her like a friend and like a sister.
They became siblings in adult life. They realized that they were siblings, and they have spent the last few years as siblings, becoming closer every time that they hang out. Great. I just love when Nightcrawler Kurt shows up on Genosha and sees her and Remy, and just like the reaction that he has, it's just so good. It's so good and so authentically Nightcrawler. I fucking loved Kurt in this. I thought he was so perfect. He was so well done, and he was one of the things that if I did have a little flag on the original X-Men series, it's that Nightcrawler and Colossus are not major parts of the series. I think they're both in 2 episodes total in the entire series. So having Nightcrawler become a character who's a regular, I think he's in almost 4 times as many episodes in this season than he was in the entire series before this. So, like, I love it. He's my favorite. I love him here. Having Rogue here is so fucking choice. It's so good. The entire episode, part 1, is just really well done.
It's very strong.
I do think that it ends kind of wonkily.
The whole Xavier coming back.
Yeah, well, that was... Xavier coming back as Wolverine says, man, where's the professor? Yeah. And then the ship crashed.
That was kind of lame.
What are we doing?
I wasn't amazed.
And then the next episode opens with Xavier in bed, and he goes out of his room and he sees this hallway is just destroyed. And he has this look on his face like, oh God, what am I going to do? And I'm like, what do you mean, what are you going to do? How'd you get here in the first place, dummy?
How did you fucking sleep?
What are you talking about?
Everything is destroyed.
And why did you sleep? I'm not going to say you can't sleep, but if you have 12 hours, maybe it's not time for a power nap.
And that's the weirdest thing about Xavier in this whole thing. Overall, I didn't like him in this series. He had a couple really strong moments, like when he takes them to class. With the Shi'ar. And then him back and forth with Magneto at the end and the final, like those are great, but all the other middle shit I could give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like it was dumb.
No, and it was that classic Professor Xavier causing more trouble than he solved.
Yes. Exactly.
Where everybody says, oh, the great Saint Charles Xavier, and everybody who knows him is like, actually, Chuck kind of sucks. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. He's not great.
All of this is really his fault.
It's kind of on him. He's kind of the one that pushed us to this point. Despite that, I really like episode 2 because, again, you have this build of we got to solve this problem, we got to solve this problem, we got to solve this problem. Right fucking now.
It has the best brutal scene, too. Oh, my God.
But I love when Magneto brings Asteroid M to the Institute, and they're like...
To try to talk them all in.
They're like battle planning, and they're like, blue team, you're going to go here, gold team, you're going to do this. And no. No. Maybe eventually, sure, but no. And just the bifurcation of the team, where Magneto is like, what do I have to tell you guys, before you understand that this is never going to stop.
Yeah.
And I really love that moment where, like, Sunspot is like, nah, dude, my mom gave me up.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. This fucking sucks. You guys all talk about, like, oh, that's a problem for tomorrow if humans still hate us. Nah, dude, I'm fucking done.
Yeah.
I'm done with this shit, man. My mom saw 2 crazy robots with glowing hands who were clearly trying to kill me and said, take my son.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be
and
fine.
I'm glad they did that because I knew Rogue was going to go with him.
Yeah.
After Remy dies, I knew she was going to go with him. Sunspot was that pyro from X2 where you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. Like you said, it makes total sense why he went.
Yeah.
Because his whole fucking family gave him up to the Sentinels.
I would also have loved to see, like, Morph go. Like, I would have loved to have seen...
He thought about it.
I would love to have seen, like, 2 or 3 other, like, really core member X-Men leave. So it's just, like, Cyclops and Beast and Jean Grey and Jubilee. And they're like, gold team, blue team, let's go.
Well, you needed Wolverine not to go because
we have to have how it ends.
Dude.
I will say here, really quick before we get to that.
Yeah.
2 things. 1, the plan is to go to Muir Island because that's where they have all their secondary stuff. Anybody who doesn't know, Muir Island is in fucking Scotland. This takes place in fucking Westchester. Yeah. What is their plan for this? They're going to have Nightcrawler teleport them. That's not how it works! Yeah. That's not how any of this works! Listen, the guy has maybe 500 feet of room to teleport, and he has to see where he's going!
And he said that in an earlier episode where he's like, what do you want me to just transport you across the room? Because I need to see where I'm going.
Yeah.
So that made me go, well, what the fuck
are you talking about? And there's no electronics, so there's no planes.
Yeah.
So what the fuck are you talking about?
That was a little dumb.
And it just made me so mad because it was just one of those, like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
This is not okay. Because I've seen this done so well. Wolverine and the X-Men, at one point when Genosha is attacked in Wolverine and the X-Men, a different animated series also on Disney Plus that you should check out because there's only 1 season, 13 episodes. It goes down really easy, really good. When that happens, Kurt is on Genosha. He sees what Magneto is actually doing on Genosha, and he knows he has to go and tell the X-Men. So he has to teleport at 500-foot gaps from Cuba to Westchester. And we see him do it, and it nearly kills him. Yeah. And it's so cool. It's one of the most badass things I've ever seen anybody do. But I guess you can just teleport across the entire Atlantic Ocean now.
And that's the part that was so frustrating is the fact that they literally said it.
Yeah.
Was it maybe 3 episodes ago? He says the words, I need to see where I'm teleporting. And then you're going to do this.
And then you're going to just be like, oh, no, but he can take us to Muir Island in Scotland. Oh. No, he can't. No, he can't. That's not a feasible option, guys.
That was dumb.
You would do better to have Cable come up with some kind of stupid future tech that allows you to teleport across the ocean. Yeah. That would make more sense than Kurt teleporting you across the ocean. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
And this is what I was saying about the 5 to 10% of the show that makes me crazy.
Yes.
There's certain things in the show that make me just so mad because you clearly know what you're doing.
Yes.
You clearly know how this is supposed to go. You know the physics of the world. You understand how everything is supposed to work. You understand it so much that you can kind of grow on it, the way that Cyclops can move himself around now. And that's something that we haven't seen in an animated form previously in the 9 million animated X-Men shows that have been out. So you get it. Mm. Until you don't. And then you have these moments that hinge the entire series, and you're like, but they can't go to Muir Island. Yeah. It's impossible for them to get there.
That's true.
But they do. And when they do, as if to emphasize kind of the unnecessary nature of how things are being done, they show us all the old costumes. Love it. All the old costumes in the case. Awesome. Love it. Why do some of the costumes have wigs? Why do some of the costumes have wigs? I need to know. I need to know why some of the costumes have wigs.
That is weird. That didn't click in my head, but now you say it.
It's really weird, guys.
It's a little strange.
It's really weird that Jean and Storm and Rogue's costumes all had wigs. It's a weird choice.
That's strange.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. Now that you say it, though, now it's
registering. Fucking weird.
Yeah, that is strange.
But so, despite all of that, we have a great scene with Cable and Jean and the team and Galapagos Islands, and that whole thing is really great. I love the moment when Morph tries to sneak in as Mr. Sinister.
Dude, that got
awesome. That got me so good the first time. It got me so good. Yeah. And I really was so impressed. You have the moment where Mr. Sinister claims his control over Cable. He's gonna kill Jean. I love that moment where he's like, my mom was one of the most powerful telepaths and telekinetics in the entire known world. Tends not to skip a generation. And it's just like, oh, fuck yeah, this guy's about to go off. So, but this episode ends with Magneto, and I will say, this was one of the things that I had kind of gripes with. Magneto and Logan don't get along.
No.
Not in this universe, not in any universe.
No.
They've never gotten along.
Like, him ripping the adamantium has happened many times before.
In other universes.
Yes.
Why is Magneto fucking around with Logan at all? Just stick him to the wall like a fridge magnet.
I think
leave him there.
They're overdoing the... He's got like that fight going on in his brain between...
He's not focused on more... He can't focus on so many things.
Yeah. And he's trying to be good because Charles thinks he can. And
but you can still... We see
Yeah.
in the first X-Men movie, Magneto takes Wolverine out without a second thought and without violence. He doesn't do anything to hurt him.
Yeah.
He just says, you can't move anymore. Time stop. I cast on you, and you're done.
Yeah.
So why does Wolverine even have the capability to stab Magneto? Also, in a lot of canons, Magneto can sense any kind of metal around him. He just has like a Daredevil sensory of all the metal in his vicinity.
Too. When the metal's in the guard, he's like, something's different about your diet, and then he knows.
Yeah,
you're right.
So why can't he tell that this giant creature made out of adamantium is sneaking up behind him?
Yeah, it was a little weird.
I'm not sure about this, guys. I feel like, again, you had a really cool idea, and then you didn't know how to get there, so you just kind of like slapdashed it together, and you were like, Magneto's distracted, he doesn't know. I gotta tell you, I've seen a lot of Magnetos in my life. I've met so many Magnetos wandering across the multiverse. No single one of them would have fallen for this trap.
Yes, I agree.
No single one. In Asteroid M, at the height of his power, no. Also, he picks up rocks for some reason, not iron, just big rocks. Just big boulders start floating in the air. Not how this works, guys.
Unless you can explain that there's metal in them.
Unless there's metal in them,
that.
But they don't say that.
You
He
just
just
have to
lands
assume.
and he has a bunch of rocks float up around him. That's not how this works. He is not a terrakinetic. He is a magnokinetic. He can control magnetism. That's what he does. That's his whole thing. It has to have fucking metal in it. I sound like I hate this episode. No. I actually really liked it.
I know what you're saying. It's a great episode, but not everything is perfect.
It's when you get into the ticky-tacky things,
Yes.
it's annoying because you have moments like when Scott gives Cable a costume and he says, spandex? Really? What'd you expect? Black leather?
That was so
Let's
great.
fucking go! Let's fucking go!
That was so great.
So, like,
I did love the interactions between Scott, Jean, and Cable. They were really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really was so happy with a lot of this show. It's just when certain things happen,
Yes.
I start pulling out my hair because I'm like, but you're so close. You're not even like the rest of Marvel where you're like miles away, miles and miles away from being good. Or where you have the entire plate set. When I will never get over Black Widow having the entire table set for them. They didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
They just had to execute the story. And they couldn't do it.
Nope.
They had to futz around with things and move stuff and change things and bring in their own. And, you know, they had a big, beautiful turkey on the table. They had to bring in their own tofurkey instead and put that in. Just have Taskmaster be the villain. Just have Taskmaster be the villain.
Yeah.
Why is this hard? Why are you doing it this way? And there's just too many moments like that in X-Men 97 where I'm like, that's not how the Phoenix Force works! That's not how it works! Like, I can get past so many things, right? There's so many moments that I can just be like, it's alright. Storm gets her powers back because she just really wills them back. I'm fine with that. That's cool. The whole thing with her and magic, I could use a little more explanation, but it's fine. I'll leave it. It's okay. Whenever I'm less confused when dealing with the Shadow King, not a great sign, but we'll leave it. It's fine. We'll move on. This is not how the Phoenix Force works.
So speaking of the Phoenix Force, let's go to episode 3. Okay, I did love the beginning of it where Charles takes over Magneto's mind. That was a cool scene.
That was pretty good.
Where he just loses his shit and says, I fucking gave you a chance, and now this is happening.
This is what you're doing?
And this is what you're doing? Full power, and like, that was fucking awesome.
And I love that in the opener, one of the things that they do in the opener that's so smart is they take that second chorus, and they use it to put little scenes in from the original series.
Yes.
So you have Cable fighting Apocalypse, and you have fucking Morph and Mr. Sinister, and you replace Jubilee with fucking Sunspot, and he's the one trapped behind the fence in the classic look. When you have Magnus and Charles facing off against a bunch of soldiers, that's in the original series.
Yeah.
So I love that, and it leads perfectly into that moment. But I had some serious questions, because the episode ends with Charles with the helmet stuck on his head. And Magneto pulling the adamantium out of Wolverine. And it begins with Charles having taken over Magneto's mind. Hang on. Wait, whoa.
What happened?
Hey, whoa. I feel like something really important happened here that you did not talk about, because we were not here. And this is not one of those scene missings where we can just kind of fill in the gap. It was a fight scene. Something happened. No! I really feel like Magneto had enough of Charles and was pretty much ready to crush his skull with the helmet. After taking all of the adamantium off of Wolverine's bones. So you're going to have to come up with an explanation. They never give us one.
They never do give us
They
one.
never give us any explanation as to how any of that happened. And that is just not acceptable to me. That's not okay. Besides that, in the Dark Phoenix thing, I really like the build of the rest of the episode, though.
Yes.
So, like, in terms of the fight scenes and the themes and the concepts, I really like all of them. Even the recruiting of Bastion at the end of the episode, I was like, this is authentically X-Men. This is how this would end. Is not with all of them trying to fight, but with them having a conversation with this character. So I like that. I like that a lot. The time travel stuff, I'm fine with. I got no problem with it.
Awesome.
I'm curious
Especially
where that's
when
going.
They realize that they saved Apocalypse, and they're like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
That was awesome.
And you know, when they meet Mama Akari and Baby Nathan.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, so you are going to be raised by Jean and Scott? Okay, all right, we got there.
That's so fucking cool.
But like, there were some moments. Phoenix rising out of the water.
Yes.
I was just like, and then she's like, oh, there was just a little bit of the Phoenix in me, and now it's gone.
That's not how it works.
No!
That scene, though, to me, was the classic MCU. We need a showstopper.
We need
We're
something to
gonna
happen.
explain it away in a dumb way, but we need this big bombastic showstopper, and that's what that was.
Never mind the fact that we see the Shi'ar kill Jean with a railgun so that the Phoenix is released back into the space.
Yeah.
And the Phoenix says to everyone, hey, my bad. Sorry. I found out what human existence was like, and it kind of drove me crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to being a force for good in the cosmic universe. And she leaves. And then Jean is dead.
Yeah.
And then the Shi'ar come to them and they say, well, we can bring her back, but it's going to take some life force from every single one of you. All of you are going to lose about 5 years of your long life. And we're going to give it to Jean. Okay. And that's how Jean comes back. She doesn't have some part of the Phoenix Force.
Yeah.
The Shi'ar would never have let her go if she had some small part of the Phoenix Force in her.
This was the Thor landing in Wakanda moment they wanted in the show.
How does Mr. Sinister clone her without noticing the Phoenix Force in her?
Yeah.
What the fuck are we talking about here, guys? We can't do this.
And, like, if she has part of the Phoenix Force in her, would the clone then have, like, a clone portion of the Phoenix?
There would be something.
There's got to be
There'd be
some
something. They would not be a
explanation.
one-to-one because the Phoenix Force is a sentient being that goes around space.
So if you clone Jean, you would be cloning the Phoenix
Not
Force
necessarily,
that's in
because
her.
the Phoenix Force is a cosmic being, so you wouldn't necessarily clone it because it wouldn't have DNA that you could clone into the new being, but the new being would have something missing from where the Phoenix Force
That's
was.
true, and the Phoenix Force would also probably fight back during the cloning process.
Also true, because it would say, hey, you're
Yes.
endangering the body that I'm inhabiting. I'd really rather you didn't do that.
Yes.
Which is what the Phoenix Force has done on several occasions.
Yeah, that was weird.
Okay, the Phoenix Force went crazy after it found out about sex and food. You think it's going to be totally okay with just, like, being cloned and having all this? No. Jean has none of the Phoenix Force left.
Yes.
That's the only rational explanation for what happens. But I guess she can, because otherwise Cable's going to kill her.
That was a Feige moment right there.
Just like, what the fuck
was
is...
a
I
Feige
literally
moment.
turned to Kelly, I was like, this is not how any of that works. You can't show up with Cloak and Dagger and Daredevil and be like, hey, it's okay, we got Cloak and Dagger and Daredevil. Forget about the bad Dark Phoenix stuff. No!
That's the part that drove me nuts. I have been preaching from the start of this podcast when we first began. What do I want to see with X-Men? Alpha Force.
Yeah.
I love Cloak and Dagger also.
Why was Psylocke with Alpha Force?
I don't understand that.
What was that?
But how do you give us a brief split second of Cloak and Dagger and a brief split second of Alpha Force? Because we've seen Daredevil in things.
Yeah.
So, Daredevil was great to see him, but we know Daredevil, there's a fucking show coming out. I want to see more of Alpha Force and Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah.
Why would you fucking show him for 2 seconds?
Cloak and
I got
Dagger,
so excited to have my excitement just thrown away.
You brought Cloak and Dagger so you could do a Freeform TV show with Cloak and Dagger, which no one watched.
No one fucking watched.
And you haven't touched them again since. And so you actually have this really good interpretation of Cloak and Dagger, even though they don't say anything.
Dude.
They just look and feel like Cloak and Dagger when they move and
Cloak
talk.
And Dagger so much.
I'm just like, I'm happy. I'm thrilled that you, again, if we're talking about... you guys did enough research to know that Mary Jane should be here, right? Because even though in the canon of the Spider-Man TV show, Mary Jane leaves and then is cloned and then leaves and then never comes back within the body of the show, we are told as the last thing that as a prize for his heroics and putting up with so much shit on a cosmic level, that the gods are going to find Mary Jane in the multiverse or wherever she is in the liminal space in between verses and bring her back to Peter so they can be together. And we see her here. Okay, so that's tied off, right? They said that they were going to do it, and now we see Peter in the future, and Mary Jane is here. Also, Flash Thompson's in the background. Hey, Flash, high five. What? I don't know how you guys can get so much right and then get some stuff just like classically wrong.
And it's like when you have a character like Cloak, why isn't he sending the Prime Sentinels into the Dark Force dimension? It's like, open up your cape and fucking just absorb it. It's like, he's fighting them just like he's fighting. And I'm like, no, dude.
Yeah. No.
That's not what he does.
No. It's like, I appreciate the thought. It's like how when...
It was cool to see
It's like when Morph turns into Hulk.
Yes.
I like this. I like this in concept. I have some questions, but I like this. I feel like there's a better way to use this.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a better way to do all of this. If this is going to be the way that we approach it, if he can become magic and have all of the access to magic's powers, I feel like that would be something that would be extremely useful. If he can become Juggernaut and have access to all of Juggernaut's mythical powers, because Juggernaut does not have mutant powers, he has magic-based powers. That would be a very useful thing to have.
Yeah. You would just stay as Juggernaut during this fight because
he literally can't be beaten.
He can't be beaten.
So what do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
There are definitely some moments where I was like, I don't know. Why is Pete in civilian clothes when the world is ending? Like, he would be Spider-Man 24/7. Especially this version of Peter. I've known this version of Peter since I was 6 years old. This version of Peter would have lost his goddamn mind trying to hold the world together. And he wouldn't have stopped for anything to do it. And here he is, just out on the street watching TV.
I wonder if it was a Sony thing, where they're like, don't show
they
Spider-Man a lot.
They showed him Webhead in that one shot where the world stops turning.
But I'm wondering if they're like, we'll give you one shot, and you can show Peter, but we'll give you one shot of Spider-Man.
I'm not sure. I know that there's also been a lot of talk of them bringing back that version of Peter Parker in an animated series, which I'm not opposed to. I think that would be really fun. We could finally have some good CGI instead of the 1995 CGI that we had. Right. Oh, it's not good, kids. It's real bad.
No CGI from 95 was good, so it was just bad.
But so I like this. I like where it ends. I like the whole thing with Magneto and Xavier going back and forth. I love that we find out that Magneto's rage is because he can't remember the faces of his family anymore. He can't remember what they looked like. That
was so good.
And that's why he's angry.
That whole back and forth was so strong.
And it's just like, I love this. Yeah, this is what really I come to X-Men for, is this argument of tolerance. And when someone says, but they're going to be intolerant to you tomorrow, you say, then we deal with that tomorrow.
Yeah.
But right now, this is what we got to do to make sure that we get to tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I really thought that they hit on a lot of those landings. I was very, very happy with that. I even like kind of the implication that Morph loves Wolverine at the end, where he turns into Jean to comfort him.
Says, I love you.
And he says, I can't say it as me, but I can say it as her. And it's like, I think Morph has a thing for
Oh,
Wolverine.
absolutely.
And
because you kind of saw it little brief, like you could see there was an affection throughout the episodes, but this shows like love.
this is like actual love.
Yeah.
So, and I love that. I love that in
that was
concept. I
awesome.
think that's amazing. I really want this to work, and now we get to the post-show part of it. I like how everything is done with some very firm issues. By and large, though, compared to other things, this is amazing.
Oh, great.
this is stellar compared to other things.
Like, we've had a lot of negativity, but once again, it's something we both really liked. So we're going to point out the negatives in hopes that maybe it improves even more, even though, I mean, I'm still like an A-.
I would put this at like an A.
Yeah.
Even with my issues and problems, I'm willing to overlook them because I had such a good time on the ride. You know, I didn't get whiplash. I didn't lose a joint or something when it went around a corner funny. I enjoyed the ride. It was a good ride.
See, I enjoyed the ride, but the reason I'm A- is the whole Storm getting her powers back thing.
Yeah.
That, I was fucking done with that 5 minutes into it.
And bifurcating that because you needed to have Genosha happen in between.
Yeah.
It's a very strange way to do that.
I was not a fan of
It's
that.
a little messy. It's a little messy. I am glad that I called it. Because every time they would say, oh, Gambit's dead, I would say, until Apocalypse brings him back. Oh, Gambit's dead. Until Apocalypse brings him back. Do you guys not know that Gambit is the Horseman of Death?
That really might be my favorite single scene when they realized they saved Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And their reaction. I was laughing my ass off because they're like, oh.
How do you see the red eyes and not think, I don't know about this guy?
Well, if you think about it, while they're watching him fight off his attackers, you don't see it that well.
But like when they talk to him.
Well, when they turn and talk to him, then
they should have been like,
oh,
this is bad. He's got blue lips and red eyes. I know how this ride goes.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. I thought it ended really, really well, really, really strong. Usually when they lead into a second season, I get angry because there's not necessarily a guarantee that the second season is ever going to happen.
But we know this is going to happen.
We know that this is going to happen, which brings me to my next point. You fired the showrunner.
Yes.
And now they're going back and the showrunner saying, listen, I still wrote most of season 2 and everything. But you look at the litany of things that he says he's not going to be involved in. Everything. All of these things are things that I thought were amazing parts of the show. Right down to him being part of the music. And the music's amazing in the show.
Yeah.
So you fire this guy. You refuse to give a reason. So it seems like you fired him because he's gay. And he's online being gay.
Yeah.
That seems to be the overwhelming reason because Disney won't give us anything else.
Which makes no fucking sense because the way Disney's going with everything, it's like, you should be putting that on a pedestal.
So he has the thing that everybody on the internet points to because they can't figure out what it is. So they're like, the only thing that we can guess is that he has a non-sexual OnlyFans where he talks about gay life. And that is why Disney fired him.
My only thought going kind of hand to hand with that is it's gonna come out that he not full on Kevin Spacey, but maybe did something inappropriate.
That's the other thing that people are guessing.
That's the only thing that makes sense.
It's been months at this point. It's been months since he was fired, and they still haven't said why.
I don't know what else makes sense.
But this is my thing: is I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't fucking get it. And now you take this guy who I look at as the reason why this show is as good as it is. Because when you're that involved at that many levels, you have to have somebody who watched all this shit and knows all this shit and is going through and doing all the stuff to make sure that everything lines up properly. And then you fire him. And then I look at fucking She-Hulk and I look at fucking Moon Knight and I look at fucking Blade, 2 of which this guy also worked on before being fired by Marvel. What do, Marvel? You set something up, you get it to the 90-yard line, you say, good enough, we're going to bring in somebody else to finish it, and then it's shit.
Yeah.
This happens every fucking time. And all I can see when I look at this is it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
They're going to do it again. They're going to fire the guy that made the thing that had the hot hand and bring in some other idiot who doesn't care and doesn't have the wealth of knowledge or experience with this or interest. Like, this is a genuine love kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is not necessarily something that you're going to get with the next guy.
This is going to be another one of those MCU. Oh, well, we told them, don't worry about the source material. Just do your own thing. Yeah. That's what this is going to turn into.
I am just sitting here like, I'm so glad X-Men 97 was good. I don't know if X-Men 98 is going to be good. Listen, I just don't know.
I'm going to hold out hope Just because, as of right now, this has been the most popular Marvel property that's come out in years.
In years.
So, I'm hoping they realize it and understand that they can't fuck this up.
They gotta bring him back.
Because this and potentially Deadpool, if they don't screw it up, are what's going to resurrect the MCU.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't fuck either of them up, because if you do, that could be the death nail. Like, this whole thing of them saying, we're going to only release 2 movies and 3 shows a year to not oversaturate, that's too much there.
That's still too much. I was looking at a timeline, and it was just through 2026, and it had 8 or 9 properties on it.
Yeah.
It's too much, guys.
It's still too much.
You're still pumping out too much product.
Yes.
And it's bad. It's bad product because you're pumping out too much of it, and you don't care.
Yes.
You openly, fragrantly don't care.
A shit.
You talk all the time about how you don't care. Like, you're proud of it. I don't understand this, man. So you finally have something that is hardcore for fans, that goes straight for fans and is really dedicated to them, and the first thing you do is fire the guy who made it.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I don't know.
What the fuck are we doing?
And not telling us why.
And that's the
big
thing. If you fire him and there's a reason,
you gotta tell us why.
If you just fire him and you don't give a reason, then we start coming up with other things that he might be, that might have been the reason for it. But the thing is that when the internet sleuths through this guy's backstory, they don't find anything that's worthy of being fired over. Yeah. So I'm just left being like, so this is, in the much more likely, Disney doing something for no reason, maybe as a money-saving opportunity or to maintain some level of control or a seniority issue or something. But that is so much more in vogue with Disney than them taking a political stance to fire somebody.
This is the thing. I would have more faith in this decision if this happened during like the first 2 phases of the MCU. But in its current state in this happening,
they just did this with Daredevil. They just did this with Daredevil. And Daredevil didn't even live long enough to get on TV before they did this. And it's She-Hulk. It's Moon Knight. It's fucking Loki. Falcon Winter Soldier. There's just so many moments where you're like, God damn it. If you would just stop and your headlong progress for 5
and
fucking
so many of them,
minutes.
like Moon Knight, they were so close to sticking the landing on that show.
Yeah.
And then they had to do the kaiju fight at the end. And you're like, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
You were so close.
You were so close. And
Oscar Isaac was killing it. He was doing awesome. And then you got to fucking...
And then you broke all your own rules. Yes. You set up all these rules, and then you broke all of them.
Just for a big CGI fight.
Just for a thing.
It's fucking...
Or in the case of She-Hulk, just for a joke.
Oh, the fucking Daredevil walk of shame. I will never fucking forgive that as long as I live.
I'm thinking about the scene where John Bass turns into Mini Hulk.
Oh, yeah, that's stupid.
And for some reason, Abomination is now a villain again, even though he's been working really hard to get back on the clean life. And then they're like, oh, but it's just a joke. And then we go to the Fast and Furious cookout, and Scar's here. Hey! This sucks, guys. I want you all to know that this sucks.
That whole thing was dead to me. Same as you when they fucked up the Wrecking Crew. And then the final nail in the coffin was the Daredevil walk of shame. And then everything after that, I didn't even give a fuck.
I'm still angry that they did Leapfrog so well.
Yes,
like, you did Leapfrog so well, and you did Porcupine, and I'm supposed to hang my hat on these things and just ignore everything else? No!
Yeah.
Kudos. Gold star. But no!
That is a perfect way to end episode 139, everyone. This was a hell of an episode.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this. This was one of the more animated ones we've had in quite a long time.
I'm warm.
Well, I'm happy we have these microphones that you have, because typically this would have been hitting the table and dropping the cord.
We have to reset everything.
Homecoming
We have to reset every 5 seconds.
Oh my god. So folks, this is episode 139. If you enjoyed what you heard here, trust me, there are plenty more episodes just like this. So please go back and listen to our back catalog. Make sure you come back next week to listen to what we got to say, because we are going to be talking about Invincible Season 2 next week. We got the whole season.
We have the whole season
to go over. So we got a lot to talk about. If once again, if you want to know more about us, if you go to nerdpodgen.com, there's links for Al, there's links for me, there's links for everybody. Who does our artwork, sir?
Our art is done by Kortney Howell.
And our music.
Our theme song is by Brendan Williams and James Connelly.
And they're all great.
They're all amazing. I'm Alfred Jutsum. You're Steve. Taylor. And until next week, we will be flying high on our own petard. Yeah, right? Have a great week, friends and enemies.
Peace.